Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked down the dusty path to his home. The twin suns of New Eden were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. His work boots made soft sounds on the packed dirt road. After 12 hours fixing the big machines that made the air breathable for humans, he was tired and ready for a hot meal and some rest. The small house came into view. It was nothing fancy, just 4 walls, a roof, and a porch that he had built himself. Most of the other engineers lived in the company housing near the main settlement, but Marcus liked the quiet out here. No neighbors meant no noise, and no one asking him questions about why he lived alone. As he got closer to his front door, he saw something that made him stop walking. There was someone sitting on his porch steps. Not just someone. There was a woman and 2 small children. The woman had blue skin that seemed to shine a little in the fading light. She was clearly not human. Marcus had seen her kind before. The Veltar people lived on the other side of the settlement. They were tall and thin, with scales instead of regular skin. Their eyes glowed softly in the dark. Most humans stayed away from them, and most Veltar stayed away from humans. That was just how things were on New Eden. The woman stood up when she saw him coming. She was shaking, and Marcus could see that her clothes were old and torn. The 2 children behind her looked scared. They pressed themselves against their mother's legs and stared at Marcus with big eyes. "Please," the woman said in broken human language. "Please, I need help." Marcus stopped a few feet away from his porch. He looked at the woman and then at the children. Something was different about the kids. They did not look completely Veltar. Their skin was lighter blue than their mother's, and their eyes were not as bright. One of them had dark hair like humans do. "What do you want?" Marcus asked. He tried to keep his voice calm, but he was confused about why they were here. The woman took a deep breath. "My name is Zarathine. These are my children, Kira and Tam." She pointed to each child. "My husband died 3 months ago. He was human, like you." Marcus felt surprise hit him like a cold wave. A human man had married this Veltar woman? That was almost impossible. The 2 species did not mix. The companies that ran New Eden did not allow it. The Veltar leaders said it was wrong. "The mining accident," Zarathine continued. "Big rocks fell. My husband James died with 6 other men." Her voice broke a little. "Now we have nowhere to go." Marcus remembered hearing about the mining accident. 7 men had died when part of a tunnel collapsed. It was big news in the settlement for weeks, but no one had mentioned that one of the men had an alien wife and children. "The Veltar people say my children are not pure," Zarathine said. "They will not help us. They say I made a big mistake marrying human man. The human people say James and I were not really married. They say it does not count because I am alien." The little girl, Kira, stepped forward. "We are hungry," she said in perfect human language. Her voice was small and scared. Marcus looked down at her. She was maybe 8 years old. Her brother looked younger. Both children were too thin. Their clothes had holes in them. When was the last time they had eaten a real meal? "What do you want from me?" Marcus asked Zarathine. The alien woman looked directly into his eyes. "I will work for you. I will cook your food and clean your house. I will warm your bed if you want. Veltar women can make heat with our bodies. We keep our families warm." Her face turned a darker shade of blue. "I will do anything you ask. Just please, give my children food and a place to sleep." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. This woman was offering herself to him just so her children could have food and shelter. The desperation in her voice made his chest feel tight. "Please," Zarathine said again. "My children need a father. They need someone to protect them. I know you do not know us, but I have watched you. You are kind to the workers. You help people when their machines break. You are a good human man." The little boy, Tam, started to cry quietly. He rubbed his eyes with small fists. Marcus could see that the child was weak from hunger. Marcus had lived alone for 3 years on New Eden. He liked his quiet life. He had no family, no wife, No children. He worked, came home, ate simple meals, and slept. It was peaceful and easy. But looking at these three people on his porch, he felt something change inside him. Maybe it was the way the children looked at him with hope in their eyes. Maybe it was how brave their mother was being, even though she was clearly scared. Maybe it was just that he had always hated seeing anyone suffer. "Come inside," Marcus said finally. "You all look cold and hungry." Zarathine's eyes grew wide. "You will help us?" "For tonight, yes," Marcus said. "We can talk about the rest tomorrow. Right now, those kids need food." The relief on Zarathine's face was so strong that Marcus had to look away. She began to cry, but they were happy tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Marcus opened his front door and stepped aside to let them in. As the family walked into his house, he wondered what he was getting himself into. His quiet, simple life was about to become very different. The children stayed close to their mother as they looked around the small house. Marcus went to his kitchen and started making a simple meal of bread, soup, and vegetables. He could feel Zarathine watching him, but she did not speak. As he worked, Marcus realized that everything in his life was about to change. But for some reason, that did not scare him as much as he thought it would. Marcus woke up before dawn, as he always did. But this morning was different. He could hear quiet voices from the main room of his house. For a moment, he forgot that he was no longer alone. He got dressed and walked to the kitchen. Zarathine was there, making breakfast. The smell of food filled the air. She had found his ingredients and made something that looked much better than anything he usually ate. "Good morning," she said softly. "I hope you do not mind. I wanted to cook for you." The children sat at his small table. They looked better after a night of sleep and food. Kira was reading one of Marcus's technical books. She was moving her finger along the words, but she was reading fast. "She can read human writing?" Marcus asked. "Yes," Zarathine said. "James taught them. He said education was important. But the school here will not take them. They say half-breed children do not belong." Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. These were just kids. Smart kids who wanted to learn. What else can they do? Tam looked up from his breakfast. "I can fix small machines," he said proudly. "Mama taught me Veltar engineering. Papa taught me human ways." After breakfast, Marcus had to go to work. He told Zarathine that she and the children could stay in the house. "Do not answer the door if anyone comes," he said. "Some people might not understand." Zarathine nodded. "We will be quiet. We will not cause trouble." At work, Marcus found it hard to focus. He kept thinking about the family in his house. During lunch, his supervisor Bill came over to talk. "You look tired today," Bill said. "Everything okay?" Marcus almost told him about Zarathine and the children, but something stopped him. "Just did not sleep well," he said instead. When Marcus got home that evening, he found something amazing. His broken heating unit was working again. The one he had been meaning to fix for months but never had time for. "How did this get fixed?" he asked. Zarathine smiled. "I am good with heat systems. Veltar people understand temperature control. Your machine was not broken badly. It just needed someone to adjust the thermal settings." Marcus stared at the unit. He had been planning to buy a new one. "You did this in one day?" "Kira helped," Zarathine said. "She has good eyes for seeing problems." The little girl beamed with pride. "I found the loose connection, and Mama showed me how to fix it." That night, Marcus sat with the children while Zarathine cleaned the kitchen. Kira showed him how she could solve math problems that would challenge adults. Tam drew pictures of machines that actually made sense from an engineering point of view. "Your father taught you well," Marcus told them. "He said humans and Veltar think differently," Kira explained. "Humans are creative. They imagine new things. Veltar are logical. We see how things work. Together, we can do more than either alone." Marcus began to understand why James had fallen in love with Zarathine. These children were proof that mixing the two species created something special. Over the next few weeks, a routine developed. Marcus would go to work, and when he came home, the house was always clean and warm. Zarathene cooked meals that were better than anything he had ever tasted. She used Veltar spices that made human food taste completely new. In the evenings, Marcus taught the children about human history and science. They taught him about Veltar culture and technology. He learned that Veltar people could see heat patterns with their eyes, which is why they were so good with thermal systems. The children had both human creativity and Veltar precision. Marcus bought them books and learning materials. Kira devoured every book he brought home. Tam spent hours taking apart old machines and putting them back together in new ways. For the first time in years, Marcus looked forward to coming home from work. The house felt alive with voices and laughter, but their peaceful life could not last forever. One evening, Marcus came home to find Zarathene looking worried and scared. The children were hiding in their room. "What happened?" Marcus asked. "A man came today," Zarathene said. "He wore an official uniform. He asked many questions about why we are here. He said it was illegal for us to live together." Marcus felt cold fear in his stomach. "What did you tell him?" "I said you were helping us temporarily." "But he did not believe me. He said he would come back with papers. He said I might have to leave New Eden." Quote, Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. He had known this might happen, but he had hoped they could stay hidden longer. "What is his name?" Marcus asked. "Director Hayes," Zarathene said. "He said he was the colonial administrator." Marcus knew Hayes. The man was strict about following rules. He believed humans and aliens should stay separate. Hayes had been against allowing Veltar people to live on New Eden at all. That night, after the children were asleep, Marcus and Zarathene sat in the kitchen talking quietly. "I am sorry," she said. "I have brought trouble to your life." Marcus looked at her. Over the past weeks, he had watched her care for her children with endless love. He had seen her work to make his house a home. He had listened to her stories about her life with James, and how happy they had been. "You have not brought trouble," Marcus said. "You have brought life to this place. Before you came, I was just existing. Now I feel like I am living." Zarathene looked surprised. "But we are not your family. We are strangers who came to your door." Marcus thought about that. Were they strangers? Kira had started calling him Uncle Marcus when she got excited. Tam showed him every small machine he fixed, proud to share his work. Zarathene hummed Veltar songs while she cooked, filling the house with music. "Maybe family is not just about blood," Marcus said slowly. "Maybe family is about people who care for each other." Zarathene was quiet for a long moment. James used to say that. He said humans make family with their hearts, not their genes. The next morning, Marcus made a decision. He would not let Director Hayes take this family away from him. Somehow, he would find a way to protect them. They belonged together now, and he would fight anyone who tried to break them apart. Marcus spent the next 2 weeks learning everything he could about colonial law and immigration rules. He read legal documents late into the night, trying to find a way to protect Zarathene and the children from Director Hayes. Meanwhile, life in his house continued to grow warmer and happier. Kira had started a small garden behind the house, using both human and Veltar growing techniques. The plants grew faster and stronger than anything Marcus had ever seen. Tam had built a water collection system that captured moisture from the air using Veltar technology. "How do you know so much?" Marcus asked Tam one evening as the boy showed him his latest invention. "Papa always said that humans ask what if, and Veltar ask how does it work," Tam explained. "When you put both questions together, you get better answers." Marcus was beginning to understand that these children were not just smart, they were something completely new. Their mixed heritage gave them abilities that neither humans nor Veltar had alone. One night, as Marcus and Zarathene sat on the porch watching the twin moons rise, she asked him a question that surprised him. "Why do humans make families with people who are not their blood relatives?" she said. "Most species in the galaxy only care for their own genetic children. But humans adopt strangers. They marry across species lines. They risk everything for people they have no biological connection to. Marcus had never really thought about it before. I guess we just believe that love is more important than genes. Marcus had never really thought. But why? Zarathene pressed. What makes humans different? Marcus looked at Kira and Tam through the window. They were reading together, sharing a book, and taking turns reading pages aloud. Maybe because we know that families are stronger when they choose each other, he said. My parents abandoned me when I was 16. The family I found later. My friends. My mentors. They meant more to me than blood ever did. We five. Zarathene nodded slowly. James said something similar once. He said that human love is not limited by biology. That is why other species fear you sometimes. You can make anyone into family. Is that really so strange? Marcus asked. Very strange, Zarathene said with a small smile. And very wonderful. As the days passed, Marcus realized that his feelings for this family were becoming deeper than just wanting to help them. When Kira fell and scraped her knee, his heart hurt as if she were his own daughter. When Tam proudly showed him a toy he had built, Marcus felt the joy of a father. And when he looked at Zarathene, he felt something he had never expected to feel again. He was falling in love, not just with Zarathene, though her kindness and strength amazed him every day. He was falling in love with the whole idea of being part of this family. For the first time in his life, he understood what people meant when they talked about home. But their happiness was about to be tested. Marcus came home from work one afternoon to find Zarathene and the children packed and ready to run. 3 large Veltar males stood in his living room. They wore the black uniforms of the Veltar Genetic Council. Marcus Chen, one of them said in heavily accented human language. I am Counselor Vex Tar. We are here to collect stolen genetic material. Stolen what? Marcus said, his anger rising fast. Vextar pointed at Kira and Tam. These children contain Veltar genes that were illegally mixed with human contamination. The Genetic Council has voted. They must be returned to the homeworld for purification treatment. Marcus stepped between the Veltar males and the children. These kids are not property. They are people. Half-breed abominations, another Veltar said coldly. The female made a grave error when she mated outside her species. Now we must correct the damage. Zarathene spoke in rapid Veltar language, her voice rising with emotion. Vextar responded harshly, and Marcus could see tears starting to form in her eyes. What are they saying? Marcus demanded. They say the children will be taken to the homeworld, Zarathene whispered. There are treatments that can remove most of the human genes. Make them more purely Veltar. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. Treatments? What kind of treatments? Kira stepped forward, though she was clearly terrified. They want to change our brains, she said in a small voice. Remove the human parts of how we think. That is genetic modification without consent, Marcus said. It is illegal under colonial law. Vextar pulled out an official document. We have treaty rights. Colonial Treaty 247, signed 15 years ago, gives the Veltar Genetic Council authority over all Veltar genetic material on human worlds. These children are classified as contaminated Veltar specimens. Marcus read the document quickly. His heart sank. The legal language was confusing, but it seemed to give the Veltar broad powers over anyone with Veltar genes. They are also human, Marcus said desperately. Their father was human. They have rights as human citizens. The marriage was not recognized by either government, Vextar said with satisfaction. The children have no legal status. They belong to us. Tam began to cry. Kira put her arms around her little brother, trying to be brave for him. Zarathene looked at Marcus with desperate eyes. Marcus felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. These people wanted to take away his family and hurt the children he had come to love. They wanted to destroy everything that made Kira and Tam special. No, he said simply. Excuse me? Vextar said. I said no. You are not taking these children anywhere. The 3 Veltar males moved closer to Marcus. They were taller than him and had claws on their hands. But Marcus did not step back. "Human, you do not understand," Vextar said dangerously. "We have legal authority here. Your colonial government will support us." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But you still have to get through me first." Zarathene grabbed his arm. "Marcus. No. They will hurt you. I cannot lose you too." Marcus looked down at her. And in that moment he knew with complete certainty what he was fighting for. This was his family. These were his children. This was his home. "Call Director Hayes," Marcus told Vextar. "Call the Colonial Council. Call whoever you want. But these children are staying with their family where they belong." The largest Veltar male stepped toward Marcus. "You would fight for alien children who are not even your blood?" Marcus smiled grimly. "That is what humans do. We fight for the people we love, regardless of their blood." Vextar looked confused by this concept. "Your species is truly insane, maybe," Marcus said. "But that insanity has built families across the galaxy. And this family is not going anywhere." The standoff in Marcus's living room lasted for 3 hours. The Veltar males refused to leave without the children. Marcus refused to let them take his family. Finally, Director Hayes arrived with 2 colonial security officers. "What is the situation here?" Hayes asked, though his tone suggested he already knew whose side he was on. Vextar handed Hayes the treaty document. "We are here to collect contaminated genetic material under the authority of Treaty 247. This human is interfering with lawful Veltar business." Hayes read the document carefully. Marcus could see the man's face growing more satisfied as he read. "Mr. Chen, you need to step aside. The Veltar Genetic Council has legal authority here." "Over my dead body," Marcus said flatly. "That can be arranged," the largest Veltar male said with a growl. Hayes held up his hand. "No violence in my colony. Mr. Chen, I am ordering you to comply. These alien children will be handed over to Veltar authorities immediately." Kira suddenly stepped forward. "Director Hayes, may I speak?" Hayes looked surprised. He had probably never heard one of the mixed children talk before. "What?" "I am 8 years old," Kira said in a clear, strong voice. "I can read at a high school level in both human and Veltar languages. I can solve engineering problems that challenge adults. I can grow plants using techniques from both species that produce twice the normal food. My little brother can build machines that work better than anything made by pure humans or pure Veltar." She paused and looked directly at Hayes. "If you let them take us away and change our brains, all of that will be lost. Is that really what is best for the colony?" Hayes shifted uncomfortably. "Child, this is not about what you can do. This is about following the law." "Even when the law is wrong?" Tam asked, stepping up next to his sister. Before Hayes could answer, Marcus heard vehicles arriving outside. Through the window, he saw Bill from his work crew getting out of a truck with 5 other engineers. Behind them came more trucks carrying colonists that Marcus recognized. "What is going on out there?" Hayes demanded. The front door opened and Bill walked in. "We heard the Veltar were trying to take Marcus's family away," he said simply. "Thought we should come see what all the fuss was about." Quote. More people crowded into the small house. Marcus saw Sarah from the medical clinic, Tom from the farming section, and at least 20 other colonists he knew by name. Some of them had brought their own children. "This is a private matter," Hayes said angrily. "All of you need to leave immediately." "Actually," said a new voice from the back of the crowd, "I think this is very much a public matter." Everyone turned to see Dr. Elizabeth Warren pushing through the crowd. She was the colony's chief medical officer and one of the few people who could challenge Hayes's authority. "Dr. Warren," Hayes said stiffly, "what are you doing here?" "I came to prevent a terrible mistake," she said. She was carrying a datapad with medical information. "Director Hayes, are you aware that we have 37 mixed families living in this colony?" The room went completely silent. Even the Veltar males looked shocked. "That is impossible," Hayes said. "Interspecies marriage is not legal. Marriage may not be legal, but love does not follow laws," Dr. Warren said. I have medical records for 37 children of mixed human and various alien heritage living in our colony. They have been hiding because they feared exactly this kind of persecution. She gestured to several people in the crowd. Tom Martinez over there? His wife is Veltar. Sarah Chen from the medical clinic? Her husband is Altarian. Marcus is not the only human who has found love across species lines. Marcus looked around the room with new eyes. People he had known for years were stepping forward and nodding. A woman he knew from the market was holding hands with a tall, thin alien man. A human man he worked with had his arm around an alien woman with green skin. This changes nothing, Vextar said harshly. The treaty gives us authority over all Veltar genetic material. The treaty was written before anyone imagined successful interspecies families, Dr. Warren replied. It needs to be reviewed by the Colonial Council. Hayes was looking more and more uncomfortable as more mixed families revealed themselves. Even if that is true, I cannot simply ignore existing law. Marcus stepped forward. He looked around the room at all the faces, human and alien and mixed, who had come to support his family. Director Hayes, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. You want to know what makes humans special? It is not our technology. It is not our military strength. It is this. He gestured around the room. It is our ability to look at someone who is completely different from us and say, you are family now. It is our willingness to fight for people we love, even when the law says we should not love them. Marcus picked up Tam and put his arm around Kira. These children are the future. They combine the best of multiple species. They can solve problems that neither humans nor Veltar could solve alone. They represent what we could become if we stopped being afraid of differences. He looked directly at Hayes. Every person in this room chose love over fear. Every parent here chose to build a family with their hearts instead of their genes. And you want to destroy that because of a piece of paper written by people who never imagined what we have built here? The room erupted in voices of agreement. People began sharing their own stories. A human woman talked about her Veltar husband, who had died protecting human colonists from wild animals. An alien man spoke about his human wife, who had saved his life during a medical emergency. Zarathene, who had been quiet through most of the confrontation, finally found her voice. Director Hayes, she said, stepping forward. I was born on the Veltar homeworld. I was taught that humans were dangerous and unpredictable. I was told that mixing with your species would contaminate our bloodline. She looked around the room at all the mixed families. But when I married James, I learned something my people do not understand. Humans do not see differences as contamination. You see them as opportunities to become stronger. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. My husband died saving human and Veltar workers in that mine collapse. He did not care what species they were. That is what I want my children to learn. That is what Marcus has been teaching them. She turned to face the Veltar males. You want to take my children back to a world that will teach them to hate half of what they are. Marcus offers them a home where they can love all of what they are. Vexistar snarled in frustration. Enough of this emotional nonsense. We have legal authority, and we will exercise it. He signaled to his companions, and they moved toward the children. But the crowd of colonists shifted to block their path. You want these kids? Bill said calmly. You will have to go through all of us. The Veltar males looked around the room at 40 determined humans and aliens, who were clearly ready to fight for Marcus's family. For the first time since they had arrived, they seemed uncertain. Marcus felt his heart swell with gratitude and pride. These people had come here to stand with his family. They had risked their own safety to protect children who were not even their own. This was what humanity really meant. This was why they would never be alone in the galaxy. The tension in the room was so thick that Marcus could feel it pressing against his skin. 40 colonists faced down 3 Veltar males while Director Hayes stood in the middle, looking more confused and frustrated by the minute. Then Kira did something that surprised everyone. She walked directly up to Vextar, the leader of the Veltar males, and looked up at his towering form without fear. Counselor Vextar, she said in perfect Veltar language. May I ask you a question? Oh. The tall alien looked down at her with surprise. He had probably never been addressed so formally by a child, especially a half-human child. "What do you want to know, contaminated one?" he said coldly. Kira did not flinch at the insult. "If you take me and my brother to the homeworld for purification, what will we become?" "You will become proper Veltar citizens," Vextar said. "The human contamination will be removed from your genetic structure and your thought patterns. But then we will not be us anymore," Tam said, joining his sister. "We will be different people." "You will be better people," another Veltar male said. "Pure people." Kira shook her head. "Respectfully, counselor, I disagree. My human heritage allows me to imagine new solutions to old problems. My Veltar heritage allows me to understand exactly how those solutions will work. If you take away half of who I am, I will only be half as useful." She gestured around the room. "Look at all these families. Humans and Veltar, and Altarians, and other species. All working together. They are building something new here, something better than any single species could build alone." Tam stepped forward. "Marcus taught me that diversity makes systems stronger. When you have different kinds of people working together, they can solve problems that no one could solve alone." Director Hayes, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. "What exactly are you children proposing?" Kira and Tam looked at each other, then back at the adults. "We want to choose where we belong," Kira said simply. "We want to stay with our family here on New Eden, and we want other children like us to have the same choice," Tam added. "We want them to know they can be proud of all parts of who they are." The room fell completely silent. Even the Veltar males seemed stunned by the children's eloquence and calm confidence. "Doctor," Warren stepped forward with her data pad. "Director Hayes, I have documented cases of mixed children throughout this colony who are performing at exceptional levels in both academic and practical skills. These children represent a resource we cannot afford to lose." She showed him the data. Test scores, problem-solving abilities, innovation rates. Mixed heritage children consistently outperform their pure species peers in every category. Hayes studied the information for a long moment. Marcus could see the man's rigid certainty beginning to crack. "Even if that is true," Hayes said slowly, "we cannot simply ignore existing treaties and laws. Then we change them," said a new voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see Colonial Representative Maria Santos pushing through the crowd. She was the elected representative who spoke for New Eden in the wider colonial government. "Representative Santos," Hayes said with surprise. "I did not know you were on world." "I came as soon as I heard about this situation," Santos said. She looked around the room at the mixed families. "Director Hayes, are you really planning to break up 40 families to satisfy a treaty written by people who never imagined successful interspecies integration?" Santos walked over to Marcus and put her hand on his shoulder. "This man and his family represent the future of human expansion into the galaxy. We succeed not by staying separate from other species, but by learning to build bridges with them." She looked directly at Vextar. "Counselor, with respect, your treaty gives you authority over Veltar genetic material. But these children are not material, they are people. And they are choosing to remain with the families who love them." Vextar's confidence was clearly shaking. "The Genetic Council will not accept this decision. Then the Genetic Council will have to deal with me," Santos said firmly. "As of this moment, I am placing these children under colonial protection. Any attempt to remove them will be considered an act of aggression against a human colony." The largest Veltar male stepped toward Santos menacingly. "You dare threaten the Genetic Council?" Before Marcus could react, the entire room moved. 40 colonists stepped forward as one, forming a protective wall around the children and their families. Bill had somehow acquired a wrench from his toolkit. Sarah from the medical clinic was holding a medical scanner like a weapon. Even the elderly farmer from the edge of the settlement was standing ready to fight. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes. These people, his neighbors, his friends, people he worked with every day, they were willing to risk everything for his family. Director Hayes looked around the room and seemed to finally understand what he was seeing. This was not a mob or a riot. This was a community protecting its own. Stand down, Hayes said quietly. Everyone just stand down. He walked over to Vextar. Counselor, I think we need to discuss this situation with our respective governments. Perhaps it is time to review Treaty 247 inches light of current circumstances. Vextar looked angry. But he was outnumbered, and he knew it. This is not over, he said to Marcus. The Genetic Council will not forget this insult. Neither will we, Marcus said calmly. We will remember that when people we love are threatened, we stand together. The Veltar males left without the children. The colonists gradually dispersed, but not before each family introduced themselves to Marcus and Zarathene. By the end of the evening, they had been invited to 17 different dinners and 3 community meetings. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the garden behind his house, watching Kira teach a group of mixed heritage children how to combine human and alien growing techniques. The small house had been expanded twice to accommodate the learning center they had accidentally created. Zarathene came up behind him and put her arms around his waist. She was wearing a simple white dress. They had been married the month before in a ceremony that blended human and Veltar traditions. Half the colony had attended, including Director Hayes, who had become an unexpected ally in their fight for family rights. The new legal framework passed the Colonial Council vote, Zarathene told him. Mixed families now have full protection under colonial law. Marcus smiled and turned to kiss his wife. What about the adoption papers? Finalized yesterday, she said happily. Kira and Tam are officially your children now. Through the window, Marcus could see Tam working with 3 other children to build some kind of water collection system. The group included a human boy, a Veltar girl, and a child whose parents were human and Altarian. Papa Marcus, Kira called from the garden. Come see what we grew. Marcus and Zarathene walked outside to find that the children had successfully grown a fruit that had never existed before. A hybrid of human apples and Veltar nutrient pods. It was more nutritious than either original fruit and grew twice as fast. How did you do this? Marcus asked, amazed. We combined techniques, one of the human children explained. Kira knew how to modify the Veltar growing method, and I knew how to adapt the human soil preparation. Marcus looked around at the garden, full of children from different species working together, learning together, growing together. This was what he and Zarathene had built. Not just a family, but a model for how different peoples could create something better together than they ever could apart. That evening, as Marcus tucked Tam into bed, the boy asked him a question. Papa Marcus, do you think other colonies will have families like ours? Marcus smiled and kissed his son's forehead. I think so, buddy. I think we are showing everyone that love is stronger than fear. As he walked back to his own bedroom, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed since the day a desperate Veltar mother had appeared on his doorstep. His quiet, simple life was gone forever. In its place was something messy and complicated and absolutely wonderful. He found Zarathene sitting on their bed, reading reports from other colonies where mixed families were starting to come forward. The movement they had accidentally started was spreading across the galaxy. Any regrets? She asked him with a smile. Marcus looked through their bedroom window at the lights in the windows of their neighbors' houses. Somewhere out there were 40 families who had learned that love could cross any boundary. Somewhere out there were children who would grow up knowing they did not have to choose between different parts of their heritage. Not a single one, he said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. Their family had begun with a desperate plea for shelter. It had become a revolution of the heart that would change the galaxy forever.